Hello, everybody. Thought I'd throw my 2 cents in on what I've done and what I thought about, and any tips I've thought about and figured out while I was putting them together on these Harbor Freight Hardwood Workbenches they got. I think they're roughly 22 inches by 5 foot, and I wanted bigger than that, so I just ended up getting 2 of them. And the plan was to put them back to back, so I'd have drawers coming out either side. And really didn't think about how to join them until I got them. I ended up bolting the middles together, and then I was like, well, they got a lot of rack and shimmy about them, so I ended up getting 3/4 inch maple hardwood plywood and covering the ends. And what was left over also gave me a good shelf that covers the 2 separate flimsy thin shelves that I would have had before. So if you were looking to put 2 of these together, wanted to do something like that, know that that will be enough material with, I got a 10 inch or so wide by 8 foot strip that I cut off it originally. So, you know, that's a pretty good amount of some good plywood that I can reuse for something else. I still need to make some cross-cut sleds or whatnot. So it's pretty efficient to do that, and it has really helped the shimmying and rocking or whatever, strengthen it up, obviously, by putting that many screws in it with 3/4 inch plywood. My biggest tip that I learned putting these together that coincides with a lot of negative reviews is these drawers are junk. I mean, they really are. And a lot of people were like, they were so junk that I just went on and rebuilt new drawers. For what I'm going to store in them, I don't think, at least not right now, I don't think I care about doing anything about it. I wouldn't be shocked if someday I don't rebuild them, and would probably rebuild them instead of having 4 per side, just make 2 deeper ones per side, and get a little deeper tools in there. And that way, if they're rebuilt with some better material, I can store more things in there with weight, some heavier tools, power tools and whatnot. As of right now, I don't plan on putting things like that in there. It'd be more like, chisels and whatnot. So the fact that they're just a step above cardboard in strength is not a big deal. But during assembly, one thing that got me on the very first drawer, these hinges, or the slides that they come with, are so bad I didn't know that they even existed this bad. They are ball bearing in a sense, I guess, but it's literally just small BBs that are trapped between the guide, and then a really, really thin piece of metal comes over the top of them. I mean, just super thin. Like you can just take your fingernail and bend them thin. So the very first one I put together and went to slide in to seat them. The first time you kind of got to seat them in place. I put the drawer in and just closed it and heard ting, 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 and looked around. I got ball bearings going everywhere. So I had to, take the time, pick all those up, and get out a couple little needle nose pliers and try to reassemble that mess. And that was not cool. But, for a moment I was like, I just need to go to the store and just buy some new runners, but I didn't. So I learned that when you're putting these drawers in for the first time to seat them, get them started just to where they'll stay in place. Go around behind it and behind where you can see the back of the drawer with a little flashlight, and slowly pull that drawer in while you're watching, because it will hang up constantly. And all it takes is the part that's actually the runner, the metal part that's actually attached to the drawer itself, will just stab those ball bearings, the ball bearing assembly strip, and it literally takes no leverage to just pop them out. I mean, they're really bad. Once they're seated, they're trapped. They're in there. They can't really come out anymore. Well, I shouldn't say that, or they'll fly. But once it's in there, for what I'm using the drawers for, I think it's okay, at least for now. But that will save a lot of headaches, because like I said, that happened on the first one, and it wasn't like I was forcing it. I wasn't kicking it closed or nothing. It was just like I was just closing it like you would close a drawer. So I think that's my #1 tip for putting these together without cussing too much. Some other things I've done so far, I figured I'd put some pegboards to the end, be kind of cool. And yes, I know the comments is going to say, you're an idiot, you turned those the wrong way. They're supposed to go horizontal or vertically because they have the slits, which I've never seen before, but apparently there are brackets or whatever things that slide into those slits that you can use as well that I don't plan on using. I'm just using this as traditional pegboard. So that's why it's horizontal. So don't bother commenting on that. I already know. I put these wheels on. I didn't want them sticking out here from the side, which would be my only option to use these as they're meant to be used. They're meant to be stepped on. That lever is to be stepped on when you want to raise your table up. It forces the wheels down. I figured no matter what I do to this workbench is not going to be 1,000 pounds. So I elected to put them in the inside like that, knowing that I wasn't going to be able to get my foot on the levers. All I have to do is raise up the corner by hand, just grab the corner and pull it up like 2 inches. I mean, it's not much. And gravity will do the work for me if the wheels fall right down. I have learned that sometimes these levers will stuck straight up and down behind here to where they're not stuck necessarily. They're just more than what gravity will do. They're straight up and down, and gravity cannot take hold. So I had a dowel rod laying around, and you could just see it there. So I just went and flipped it over, and it was all good. Yes, that is incredibly lazy, but hey, safety first. Don't get your fingers down in there. So when I put my pegboard up, that's why I went on and decided to throw some eye bolts in the bottom. That way I can keep a dowel rod on each end to help flip those down. So, once again, if you think about doing it this way, it's all whether you want to lift or not. I mean, worst case scenario, I got a really small lift that I could stick right there in the middle and 3 or 4 cranks and it's up and they drop down. But like I said, it's not going to be 1,000 pounds anyway. So barely lift the corner up, gravity works for me. So I put one of those on each end. Another thing I have done, this is hardwood. I don't know what it is. It's not a very hard hardwood. I've got dings on it just from I'm cutting boxes and pulling things out. Like I said, I'm trying to set up my shop here. I don't even know where a lot of these dents have already come from. And that's just on the top. The sides were really beat up. I had already actually broken this one right here was split all the way down. I do not know why. It was not like that when I put it together. So I decided I'm going to wrap it all anyway, and that'll help kind of tie them together as one. Like you can see this area here, that's straight factory. I mean, yes, you get what you're paying for here. With the Harbor Freight kit, but anyway, I wrapped basically every corner nearly in red oak. Same goes for the sides. That way, it also trimmed out my maple plywood, trimmed down the bottom. I still need to trim out this, still just exposed plywood. That will also get oak trim. And, I'm adding some money here, I get it. But, you get this stuff I pay for about a foot. So, and it's only, I don't know, $1.50, $60 a foot or something like that. It's not that big a deal. Ultimately, I cut the 2 middle legs out, which originally would just be the 2 back legs of the benches. Kind of reuse some of the base that came with it as feet. One of my corals, I think, is, and I get the peg holes and what they do. but I think it's a little excessive. I couldn't count the times in the last week or two that I had small parts fall through these holes. Whatever, screws, nut bolts, nuts, whatever. And that's kind of a pain in the butt. I can understand some of these existing. I'm thinking I'm gonna get some oak dowels and fill in. I might fill in almost all of them in the middle. I'm thinking literally I'm gonna keep the 4 that's gonna be in front of the clamps. Maybe a couple here and there more, but I'm thinking about getting rid of the rest of these because that sure is a pain in the butt. You know, they either fall down in the drawers or they fall down on the floor, or they, you know, it's just kind of, I don't know. I think it just went a little wholly excessive. Now, some people might totally disagree, and that's what the internet's all about, apparently. They might say it doesn't have enough holes, and if that's the case, well, get your hole saw out and put some more. But I think I'm going to get rid of some of mine. I thought the big board was cool in a way too, because you know, you can do things like I hang my drills up so they're accessible. Like, bam, you know, and it's still out of the way because there is such an overhang. So I don't know. I kind of think that's kind of a cool idea to play. So anyway, mainly that's what I was going for though. As I got to thinking, man, I need to tell the world about about pulling these drawers in instead of pushing them in, because I think that's the biggest problem with this workbench. Is it worth the money? If you're just buying a workbench to have in the garage, I think it's totally worth the money. You know, as most people know with Harbor Freight, you can almost always find a 20% off coupon. Just Google it. I mean, I don't ever buy anything in there full price. I don't care if I'm buying a $2 screwdriver, I'll use the coupon. Because it's, I mean, and you don't even have to have the coupon. You just show them a screenshot of a coupon and they'll take it. So I think I got like $120. I almost want to say 119, but I think it was about 120 bucks in each one of these to buy them straight up. So I'm thinking, you know, could you build it for 120? Oh, sure, you could. You could go, especially if you're using pine, you know, just using regular 2x or something. This is a hardwood. It is not a very hard hardwood. So yeah, it's a little upgraded. If you were using poplar even, you would probably spend more. I hadn't done the math, but you would probably spend more, I would assume, to build it from scratch. But yeah, if you just need a workbench, just something to sit in your garage, just to have, put some, you know, stuff in the drawers and blah, 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 I think it's totally worth it. And I think that's been the general consensus was it's totally worth it, even if you just use it as a base to build off of, which is obviously what I'm doing here. I have a tendency to keep going with stuff like this, so there's no telling. It'll probably have LED lights running around the bottom of it before it's over or something silly. But even as it sits, I've only spent, you know, plywood, the maple plywood's about 50 bucks a sheet. I don't recall about the pegboard. I got it off Amazon for pretty cheap, and it's metal. You get 2 of them in a package, and it was 20 bucks. I can't remember, not very much. The casters, those casters are not cheap no matter where you look. I think I actually got those off Amazon as well, and I think I found them used, which I don't know if you're familiar, but a lot of times you can find used items through Amazon that aren't really used. They're just, the packaging's beat up or something like that, and they can't sell it as new because most people would receive beat up packaging like that, or, you know, open the box and there's nothing inside except the product and no paperwork or nothing, and they'd be like, what the heck, I'm getting used stuff here. So they just sell it as used at a pretty heavily discounted price. But I think I still got like 40 bucks in them, something like that, which I think is like 10 or 15 less than they would normally cost. I almost want to say Rockler even carries some that are their version, but for what I need to do with it, there's kind of no choice. I can't just put it on casters because I need it to be stable when I need it to be stable. But I had to have some easy way to move it so that I can get it out of the way. I share the back of this garage, and it's such a mess right now. I'm trying to set this mess up with a boat. Can't keep my boat outside, and it won't fit in the garage lengthwise. So I have to put the boat on on those jacks so I can kind of maneuver it around any direction I want to, and I store it in the back. And so everything that I have in the garage other than that has to also be mobile so it can get out of the way so I can go fishing. So, you know, that's why this is going to end up over in this corner every time I get this boat out. It has to be mobile. So I think they're worth the money, especially if you just need a workbench. I think they're totally worth the money, especially if you use a coupon. If you don't, then sorry about it, man. You don't make no sense. If you don't go to Harbor Freight and buy stuff and don't use a coupon, I don't know about you. I get some things you can't use coupons on, but a lot of things you can. Anyway, that's about it. Have fun.